I'm Ganesh Singh, a disability rights advocate, and I've been in advocacy for the past 15 to 16 years, advocating on the rights of persons with disabilities, as stated in the Guyana Persons with Disabilities Act 2010, and also the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. One of the areas that I've been focusing on a lot is education for children with disabilities, as some would call it inclusive education, or some would say special education needs. Special education needs started in Guyana since 1968, with the first school being established in that year, and that was the David Rose Special Education Needs School, which caters for children with all types of disabilities. And at that time when it started for children who are deaf, children with intellectual disabilities, children with learning disabilities, children with physical disabilities, and they even had a classroom for children with vision disabilities, so that is children who are blind. That was the first school, and that was in Georgetown. However, it took a while before we started to get other schools, other special education schools developed. And we had one established in New Amsterdam in the late 1980s, and that was just set up by the Lions in their den, and eventually they constructed their own building in the early 90s. In the late 90s, we had the Diamond Special Education Needs School being established by the United Women for Special Children, and in the 90s, we also had the Linden Special School, which is an NGO. Over the past few decades, we would have seen a few more special education schools established. That is the Harold B. Davis Special Education Needs School, the Sophia Special School, the Barnabas Special Education Needs School. You have the Schoonard Special Education Needs School, or what they call the Schoonard Learning Center for Children with Special Needs. Then you have the Betterfor-Wapton Special Education Needs School and their resource unit for the blind in Georgetown, and another resource unit for the blind in Linden, and that caters for children who with vision disabilities. They also have two resource centers, one in number 5, and that's Region 5, and you have another one in Potentia on the west bank of the Demerara. So in total, you have about 10 to 12 special education needs schools and resource centers that offer education to children with disabilities in Guyana. So it is something that we have a far way to go, and we've also come a far way, but we've not reached the point where all children with disabilities across the 10 administrative regions of Guyana have access to education, because there is still no system in Region 2 for children with disabilities. There is no resource center or a special education needs school, or even a special education needs program. The same for Region 1, Region 8, Region 9, and even Region 7, there's nothing significant for children with disabilities. Even the large region like Region 4, certain parts of Region 4 like in King Grove, Mahaika area, there is nothing for children with disabilities as it relates to special education needs. Some children with disabilities, especially those with physical disabilities, are able to attend mainstream schools. However, not all types of disabilities, or not children with different types of disabilities, would be able to attend a mainstream school. They need that special support, which is lacking in some areas. Our special education needs system in Guyana is delivered by mostly teachers that are not trained in the field of special education needs. And that is because for quite a number of years, teachers were not exposed to specific training. Some would have done a few courses at the Sir Porter College of Education, but the majority lack the necessary skills and knowledge to teach children with disabilities, and that poses a significant challenge for both student and teacher in the classroom. The government would have launched the Gold Scholarship, which is a good initiative, so that a lot more teachers would be able to complete a bachelor's degree in special education needs. And we hope that that would enable the education system, or the delivery of education for children with disabilities, to become more effective. There is a structure in place. At least, that structure seems to be working to the most extent. There is a National Special Education Needs Coordinator, That person is at the National Center for Education Resource Development, and then the regional education, special education needs officers in most of the administrative regions. And those persons are in charge of working along with the regional education departments to deliver special education to children with disabilities. There is no policy framework. There is a special education needs policy that is in draft, and that policy has been in draft for the past 10 years. And I know recently they did a review with the hope of implementing that policy in 2022, because I was part of that consultation. With the new education strategic plan, I know there is a comprehensive section on special education needs. So, there is there are reasons to be optimistic that the special education needs will be transformed, because I can honestly say, yes, we have a few special education needs schools and resource center, but only the children who are blind are afforded the opportunity to write CXC or to really acquire a meaningful education. For the majority of children with other types of disabilities, such as intellectual children who are deaf, children with learning disabilities, and so on, in those special education needs schools, there is no plan, there is no pathway that they can follow. Most of them, they graduate because of age. So they reach 18 and they leave the school without any qualification. So they cannot matriculate to any tertiary institution, or most times, they just go back home and that's it. A few will go to training facilities like the Open Door Training Center or the GITC and learn a skill, but the majority go back home and that's it. The curriculum that is used in the special education needs school is the primary curriculum, which is modified. So you have 15, 16-year-old children using a primary school curriculum. So we need a comprehensive curriculum review, and one that is tailored to be disability specific. So you have a curriculum for every different type of disability, and we need to have an individual education plan for every child with a disability in the education system. So there is a pathway that they can follow in order to be able to acquire a meaningful education. So there are significant challenges. As I said, the attitudes of some of the bureaucrats in the Ministry of Education and at the regional education departments are not helpful, because they're not supportive of special education needs. And then, a lot of us advocates see special education as being a stepchild of the Ministry of Education, because a lot of resources are not allocated. So a lot more resources need to be allocated. We need to incorporate a lot more use of technology to ensure that children with disabilities can be able to have a better opportunity for an education. So, there is significant challenges, and once we are able to have that policy in place, I'm sure there will be a better framework to deliver education to children with disabilities all across Guyana, and special education needs can be transformed. Thank you.